It is Saturday night. Viewers, fans, and subscribers, remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell, turn on all notifications, become a channel member today. I am sitting here looking at information that just dropped in the last few hours that has me genuinely speechless. Randy Orton wrapped a steel chair around Matt Cardona's arm and crushed it with his boot on live television last night on the Blue Brand of SmackDown on Friday night, deliberately, methodically, in 4 complete separate steps that gave him every opportunity to stop, and he did not stop. Not once did the volatile viper, did the unpredictable snake that he is. But here is the part that changes everything, viewers. Here is the part that changes everything. The part that goes way beyond a wrestling attack. The part that has the entire WWE locker room shaken and WrestleMania 42 hanging by a thread right now. Triple H is talking about it. Triple H is seething. We have the footage breakdown. We have the emergency talent meeting details. We have The Rock's personal phone call to the game Triple H. And we have Ted DiBiase Sr.'s furious response. And we have the WrestleMania 42 replacement scenarios that nobody else is covering yet. This is SeanzView Entertainment, and let's get right into it. But before we get into it, I want your thoughts. I want your review of what we got and what we saw on SmackDown last night. What would you rate and review SmackDown, the Blue Brand, last night? What stood out? What struck you? What was good? What was bad? What was cloudy? What was stormy? What was sunny? Was it fire? Was it the desire? Did SmackDown light you up? Did SmackDown get you invested into WrestleMania even more than what you were already interested in it? Your thoughts, your comments, your opinions, and your emotions on that. Now, for anyone who missed SmackDown last night, let me paint the picture, because what Randy Orton did to Matt Cardona was not a wrestling move gone wrong, and it was not an accident, and the footage makes this absolutely undeniable. Randy Orton took a steel chair, wrapped it around Cardona's arm, placed it on the mat, stepped back, and then drove his foot down onto that chair with his full body weight, crushing Cardona's arm completely underneath it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a finisher. That is a signature spot. That is not anything that exists within the framework of professional wrestling as a performance. What Randy Orton did last night required 4 completely separate, deliberate steps: retrieving the weapon, positioning the victim, and then executing the stomp. Every single one of those steps was a conscious decision. Every single one of those steps gave Randy Orton an opportunity to stop. He did not stop on any of them. This was clearly a message sent to Cody Rhodes, but it is also the voices in the head, the voices that are controlling Randy Orton. And wait till I tell you how the WWE is interested and how the WWE is coming to an answer here, a proposal on how they're finally going to get the fans to boo Randy Orton. You're going to want to tune into this one in the next video, but we're not even done here, guys, because we got a lot to talk about. We have a lot to expose. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell, and turn on all notifications and hype up the video. Now, think about what this all means for Randy Orton. Think about what this means. Between picking up the chair and driving his boot down onto Matt Cardona's arm, Randy Orton had multiple moments where he could have pulled back, multiple moments where every instinct a professional wrestler develops over 20 years of training should have told him this has gone too far. He ignored every single one of them, whether it be security, whether it be officials. The footage from last night does not leave any room for interpretation. Every camera angle shows the same 4-step sequence: chair retrieved, chair position, arm place, boot driven down with full body weight. That is not a wrestling match that got out of hand. That is a plan being executed exactly as intended from the moment Randy Orton walked into that building last night. And that footage, viewers, the undeniable 4-step HD evidence that WWE's own cameras captured for the entire world to see, is sitting on Triple H's office right now as he decides what to do about the most dangerous man on the roster in 2026. And you know what? Who do we have to blame for this? Cody Rhodes, because it was Cody Rhodes who says, I want the Viper. I want the Randy Orton that hears voices in his head. I want to take off that stressor. I want to take off the weight of the world on Randy Orton. I want Randy Orton to be at his best. I want Randy Orton to be 110%. But I don't think Cody Rhodes exactly knew what he was getting himself into when he asked for that version of Randy Orton. Now, here's what SeanzViewEnt Entertainment is hearing about what happened inside WWE today, and this is based on backstage chatter and sources that are lighting up across the wrestling news world right now, according to rumors and gossip online. Triple H called an emergency talent meeting earlier today. Not a scheduled production meeting, not a routine creative check-in, an emergency meeting called specifically in response to what Randy Orton did to Matt Cardona, wrapping a steel chair around his arm and crushing it with his boot on live SmackDown television last night. Sources close to the situation are describing the atmosphere in a meeting as unlike anything the current WWE roster has ever experienced since Triple H took over creative a couple of years ago. Because Triple H's entire tenure has been defined by one thing above anything else: rebuilding the professional culture of this company after the chaos of the final Vince McMahon years. A culture built on respect, safety, and the understanding that everyone in the locker room is a professional whose physical well-being matters. Randy Orton shattered that understanding last night in front of millions of people on live television with a steel chair and his boot. And sources say that when Triple H walked into the emergency meeting today, he was visibly furious in a way that nobody in that room has ever seen before. Not performed fury. Again, not performed fury. Not creative meeting intensity. Real fury. The kind that comes from watching 4 deliberate steps play out on live television that threatened everything you have spent years building. The meeting covered 3 specific things according to sources, according to those in the know. Matt Cardona's medical status and the full extent of the injury sustained when Orton crushed his arm with that steel chair. The locker room response and which specific performers have raised concerns, and the disciplinary options available to WWE management in terms of how they respond to Randy Orton going forward. And it is those options that have the wrestling world holding its breath right now, because we all know at WrestleMania it's supposed to be Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the undisputed WWE Championship. But is Cody Rhodes going to be in any shape? Is Cody Rhodes going to be able to be there? Is Cody Rhodes going to be able to be at his most enhanced version? Because we all know Randy Orton is at the top of his game right now. But again, we're going to get into the response and the WWE's answer to how they're going to get, how they plan to get the fans to actually boo Randy Orton. We're going to do that in the next video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe for that one for the Backstage Insider sources. Now, here is the development, quite frankly, viewers. Here is the development that nobody saw coming today. This is one that tells you more about how serious the situation has become more than anything else in this story. Ted DiBiase Sr., the $1 million man, one of the most respected legends in the history of the business, reportedly called Triple H personally today. Think about what it takes for a Hall of Famer of that stature to pick up the phone and call the head of WWE Creative on a Saturday night. This is not a man who inserts himself into current storylines. This is not someone who calls WWE management to comment on what is happening on television. When Ted DiBiase Sr. makes a call like that, it is because something happened that he feels directly and personally connected to. Sources say that that call was one of the most heated conversations WWE's office has ever received in quite some time. Now, we have rumors and gossip that Ted DiBiase's son, Ted DiBiase, is supposed to return to the WWE. Again, rumor and gossip that Ted DiBiase's son, who was in legacy with Randy Orton, could be making a return on the road to WrestleMania. However, because Ted DiBiase Sr. watched Randy Orton, his son's former legacy stablemate, Ted DiBiase Jr., again, who's supposed to be returning, stood alongside in that ring, wrapped a steel chair around a performer's arm, and crushed it with his foot on television. And he had things to say about it that Triple H needed to hear directly rather than through a third party. What exactly was said in that call is still developing, but the fact that it happened, the fact that the $1 million man felt compelled to personally contact WWE management today tells you everything about the magnitude of what Randy Orton did last night on SmackDown. Now, this piece of information really changes WrestleMania 42 as we know it. Okay, it really does. Sources are reporting that Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, the face of the WWE, the undisputed WWE champion, the man whose WrestleMania 42 match against Randy Orton is supposed to be the centerpiece of the biggest show of the year, has privately communicated to Triple H that he has serious concerns about getting into a ring with Randy Orton in Las Vegas. Now let that sit in for a moment. Cody Rhodes, who has wrestled with a torn pectoral muscle, who finished the story against the most dominant champion in recent WWE history, Roman Reigns, a man that went against John Cena, who has never backed down from anything or anyone in his entire career, is expressing legitimate safety concerns about competing against Randy Orton after watching him wrap a steel chair around Matt Cardona's arm and crush it with his boot in cold blood on live television. Sources are describing Cody's communication to Triple H as genuine, serious, and something that WWE management is treating with the full weight that it deserves. Because if Cody Rhodes cannot compete at WrestleMania 42, if the man whose entire WWE narrative has been building toward the moment that this moment decides that Randy Orton has crossed the line he cannot move past, then everything changes. The match changes, the card changes, and the entire story of WrestleMania 42 changes in a way that nobody inside or outside the WWE is prepared for. And if everything I have told you so far was not enough, the emergency meeting, the Ted DiBiase Sr. phone call, Cody Rhodes' safety concerns, sources are now rumoring something that I had not read until once I did read it. I had to actually read it 3 times before I believed it was enough to bring it to you today. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, the most electrifying man in all of entertainment, Dwayne The Rock Johnson personally set a call to the game Triple H. The Rock, the man whose connection to WWE through TKO makes him one of the most powerful figures in the entire company's corporate structure, called Triple H, personally today after watching Randy Orton wrap a steel chair around Matt Cardona's arm and crush it with his boot on live SmackDown television. And what sources are saying about the content of that call is the most explosive rumor hitting the wrestling internet right now. The Rock, furious that the WrestleMania 42 main event is now in jeopardy, reportedly offered to step in personally if Cody Rhodes cannot compete. The Rock versus Randy Orton, a WrestleMania 42 match. Oh my God, Orton, The Rock at WrestleMania. Now, this is a match that we got via a tag team match at WrestleMania 20 in 2004. Randy Orton and The Rock shared the same ring at that time. But again, that was back in a tag team match. It was not one-on-one. Confirmed? No. Being discussed? Sources say the conversation happened, and the fact that it happened at all tells you the situation inside WWE right now is serious enough that the most powerful people connected to the company are making personal phone calls on a Saturday trying to figure out what happens next. So what does WrestleMania 42 look like depending on what Triple H decides to do about Randy Orton in the next 72 hours? Because that is a conversation that matters most for every single wrestling fan watching this video. Now, of course, you got scenario one. Triple H fires Randy Orton. Randy Orton fired by the WWE and the powers that be, Triple H. The nuclear option. Sources say it is being discussed, but is currently the last likely outcome because of the WrestleMania timeline. But if it happens, who replaces him? Does Roman Reigns return from his sabbatical? Does CM Punk finally get his WrestleMania main event from his injury that took him? Well, we already know CM Punk is spoken for, and we already know, quite frankly, that CM Punk and Roman Reigns are going to face each other at WrestleMania, but could they pull double duty? That's the thing about this. There's a little swerve. There's a Russo swerve for you. You think I didn't know what was going on with Roman Reigns and CM Punk already? You didn't think I already knew they weren't already competing for the world title? Now, also, does The Rock make the most shocking in-ring return in years against Randy Orton? Every one of those scenarios is being discussed inside WWE right now, and every one of them makes WrestleMania 42 an entirely different show from the one currently being built. Scenario 2. Triple H suspends Orton for a defined period that reinstates him before WrestleMania 42, the most likely creative outcome based on what sources are saying today. A suspension acknowledges the severity of what happened. The steel chair wrapped around an arm, a boot driven down with full body weight, a bone crushed on live television without destroying the most compelling match on the card. It also creates a massive storyline opportunity. Cody Rhodes preparing for a man who could return at any moment, not knowing when or in what condition the Viper reappears in Las Vegas, especially if the voices are talking to him. Now we got to pinpoint scenario number 3. Triple H handles the situation entirely internally, backstage, with no public action. The path of least resistance creatively, but the path of most resistance from the locker room. Going light on Orton after crushing someone's arm with a steel chair and a boot on live television sends exactly the wrong message to every performer who witnessed what happened and is watching how management responds right now. However, whatever Triple H decides, and sources suggest that this decision is coming within the next 72 hours, with WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas, it is going to look very different from what any of us were expecting when we wake up on Tuesday morning. But, ladies and gentlemen, here is where everything stands right now, because this is why we give you the most prolific, the most magnificent, the most descriptive, the most in-depth, smash-mouth, in-your-face, the unapologetic, brash, and brazen. Randy Orton, ladies and gentlemen, what he did was deliberate. Triple H called an emergency meeting today. Ted DiBiase Sr. made a furious personal phone call to WWE management. And, of course, there's rumors again of Ted DiBiase Jr. returning to talk some sense into Randy Orton, because Jelly Roll tried to do it. Jelly Roll, last night on SmackDown, tried to talk some sense into Randy Orton, and Jelly Roll thought he got through to Randy Orton. He thought Randy Orton was going to respond in kind. He thought Randy Orton had returned to good, because Randy Orton came out later in that same night in the main event segment, and he came out looking like the babyface Randy Orton, kissing babies, smacking the hands of the fans in the crowd, signing autographs, and then all of a sudden the voices started, and Randy Orton went to that place in his career again. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want your thoughts, your comments, and your opinions, and make sure to turn that notification bell on all the way so you are tied and you are first to know the moment Triple H announces the decision about the future of Randy Orton in WWE. That will be absolutely vital and crucial to this report. Should Triple H fire Randy Orton for deliberately crushing Matt Cardona's arm with a steel chair in his boot? Or is this the most brilliant, most calculated, most terrifying heel run in WWE history? And Triple H should let it all play out till WrestleMania 42 in Las Vegas. I want you to weigh in the comment section below. I will be reading every single comment. And again, guys, we're going to have another video on how the WWE plans to have the fans cheer for Cody Rhodes and boo Randy Orton. And boy, it isn't going to be an easy one. I can assure you of that right now, viewers, fans, and subscribers. It's not going to be easy by a long shot, because it would appear as if right now that Randy Orton could do anything. Literally, Randy Orton could do anything, and the fans would be approving of it. They would be still singing the song, and they would still be chanting the praises of Randy Orton. So it seems like Randy Orton can do no wrong. Randy Orton can do no harm at this point. If anything, the people want more violence. They want more viciousness. They want more of this Randy Orton, okay? So, again, what is the WWE planning? What are they concocting? What is the WWE going to come up with so Randy Orton gets booed at WrestleMania? We're going to have that report and much more in yet another blockbuster update of Sean's View Entertainment right here on YouTube.com, where we will always last long. Subscribe.